It's the first Friday at the Vuelta a España as week 1 of the Spanish Grand Tour comes to an end with a bumpy Stage 7 on tap for today. 3 kilometers, starting in an old mining town just about 2 hours south of Madrid, but for the first time, heading due north on a stage at the Vuelta through central Spain to Ver.Ⅱ.
And though there are no rated climbs on the course today, there are a lot of ups and downs, and they will add up over the course of the 114 miles. Still, it is expected to be a field sprint, and there are 2 very hard left turns, sharper than 90 degrees, coming into the final kilometer, and then a couple of traffic circles after that. So it's not a perfectly straightforward finishing sprint.
This was earlier today in the start town of Almaden. Under sunny skies, temperatures a bit cooler than they have been as the riders rolled out in front of huge crowds that have watched this Vuelta all throughout this first week. So the race is underway. Stage 7, over 180K on tap today, headed towards the second weekend of the race, and we'll pick up live coverage when we come back on Universal Sports. And we are now live with just over 77 kilometers left to go on Stage 7. This is the field with a gap of 5.5 minutes out to a 4-man breakaway. And you might be able to tell they just went through the feed zone. So a little lunch on the menu right now.
Got to keep those calories flowing every single day, and it's important to even eat much before you're hungry, and it's hard to do when it's hot out like this. You got to force it down.
So a leisurely pace as they take the Musette bags up through the field, hand them out to their teammates, and everybody gets a little nourishment before the hectic activity in the final portion of the stage. Igor Anton, number 51 for Kittel. Boy, has it been a disappointing first week for him. One of the top contenders coming in, suffering on the first summit finish, the uphill climb the following day, basically out of podium contention here, and we're not even to the second full weekend yet. Now field rolling along. No categorized climbs on the profile today, but very bumpy in nature. It's not one of these long, flat, typical transition stages that you see at a Grand Tour. There definitely are a lot of rollers out there. Liquigas, a team that took control at the end of yesterday's stage. TTT-like performance at the end there when they caught all the other GC guys off guard. Joaquim Rodriguez, Sylvain Chavanel admitted that, hey, we didn't expect them to attack, and we really weren't paying attention.
Yeah, really caught everybody off guard, and Chavanel even complaining after the stage, saying he didn't want to make a controversial statement, but he thought that the lead group of 5 motor pace behind the camera bike, I didn't really see it that way from our vantage point, because we were getting the images from that camera bike, and it didn't look like it was right on the group.
A very interesting dynamic, the way Nibali was upset with his teammates for not staying in the bonus time. But it's a rare situation to have 4 teammates like that come to the line at the end of that type of stage where it was some kind of a reduced sprint. So because they were going so fast on the descent, they were single file and really didn't have a chance to talk. So they were essentially discussing their tactics in the final 300 meters to the line.
Yeah, really challenging. And I actually called up the team. I spoke with Paolo Barbieri of Liquigas Cannondale after the stage, and I said, what happened? He said, you know, the only thing is, I can say, is Agnoli made a mistake. He should have put his brakes on and let Nibali come by and get the 8-second bonus for 3rd, but it all happened so fast, it just didn't work out, and Nibali was very upset afterwards.
And a couple of Cofidis riders, and they have 2 men in the breakaway today. There's a 4-man break of non-threatening general classification riders up the road, as the attacks started very early on today's stage. And there in the green jersey there for Katusha, that is Joaquim Rodriguez, wearing the green jersey of the points competition. Brad Wiggins there on the left-hand side of your screen in the white jersey for Team Sky, still very much in the GC equation.
And today may be the first day in virtually the entire race where we don't see any real chances for general classification changes.
We've seen at least subtle changes each and every day with guys either gaining a little time or losing a little time. Joaquim Rodriguez winning the stage a couple of days ago, so there have been some changes almost every day in the general classification. And now our first look at the breakaway. All four of these guys in their first ever Vuelta a Españas. 2 Frenchmen, 2 Spaniards. Luis Angel Mate, the 27-year-old Spaniard for Cofidis. Top man on the GC among the quartet at 14:39 down. Julien Bouchard, Frenchman for Cofidis. Second-year pro is in the group. Steve Huonard, also a Frenchman for AG2R. As we move back to Brad Wiggins, who's quietly just plodding along, 126 back, and no doubt his sights are set on that stage 10 individual time trial to really make his move on the GC.
Big time. He's looking forward to that. Wiggins crashed out of the Tour de France, really banged up badly there. So he just said, you know what? I have great form. I'm going to refocus. He's actually gotten even lighter. I think he's several kilograms lighter than he's ever been in his racing career. And he really is focused on this one.
Andrew Talansky for Garmin Cervelo is at the front of the peloton now. He's done a lot of work in his first week at the front of the field when Garmin Cervelo has wanted to put men at the front of the field.
Well, they've got a very good opportunity today for their main field sprinter, Tyler Farah. Yesterday, when I spoke with Bingen Fernandez of the team, one of the directors, he said they were riding for Hausler. Today, he said it's all going to be Farah. This is a perfect type of day for the American.
So the field in a comfortable position. They know the break is within comfortable parameters. At 5:13 up the road, no big launching pads for the break to use later, and 62 kilometers still left to go on the stage. And I know, Gogo, you've been known to throw a pot or two in your time, so you should be happy.
A lot of Talavera pottery in my house, Steve, believe it or not.
And it is a very flat finish. But something to keep an eye on is just outside of the final K, there's almost a 180-degree turn for the riders. And then inside the final K, there are 2 roundabouts, but it is entirely flat. It's not like one of these stages we've seen earlier in this first week where there's a little undulation, there's a little uphill. Nothing like that as they come up on the first intermediate sprint point of the day. And this is our 4-man breakaway. First of 2 intermediate sprints, second one coming up with just about 23K left to go.
Antonio Capello taking that and not contested in any way, shape, or form, as these guys are not interested in those points. They're just interested in trying to stay away as long as possible.
How do you think that finish will help to dictate the sprint? Again, earlier we saw that really steep hill inside the final kilometer of stage number 2 that broke up the field sprint. We've seen uphill finishes and some kind of climbing that's really made things much different for the sprinters. But today, with it being entirely flat, but with some of these subtle turns, how do you think that might impact things?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to realize that HTC High Road is missing not only Matt Goss, but Mark Cavendish. So that's a team that all these guys are used to seeing line it up and try and take control of the lead out in the final 15 or 10 kilometers. They probably will not be trying to do that, even though they have Dagan Colvin Howard. There's your overall race leader, Sylvain Chavanel. Very pedestrian day for him. He's got to be happy about that. So in the absence of HTC High Road taking control, I think it's going to fall to a battle between Garmin Cervelo and Skills Shimano. Skills Shimano has a lot of guts, and they're going to try and take that one away from Tyler Farah. But we're going to see Leopard Trek in there as well.
Sylvain Chavanel, his 3rd day in the red jersey, 4th different leader at this year's race. And status quo at the front of the field. 31K left to go on stage number 7 at the Vuelta a España. 151 now, the gap to the 4 leaders for the field.
Really flying on this little section of downhill here. Field getting it going. You can see that rough pavement when you're back in the middle of the peloton. If you hit a bump in there, you could get a pinch flat, you could wreck a wheel, it could cause a crash. So even a relatively pedestrian-looking day like this, you have to be careful and aware at all times.
See Igor Anton, stage 14 last year's Vuelta, if you want an example.
Yeah, he's crashed at the Vuelta before when he was riding really well. So at any time, you have to be vigilant.
Final 30K, and the lead coming down even more now. Well inside of 2 minutes for the four-man group of Luis Angel Matze, Julian Fouchard, Steve Huonard, and Antonio Caballo. 4 guys in their first Vueltas. And they've been the primary breakaway on the day. Went clear much earlier in the stage. Had a lead of almost 9 minutes at one point. And just what the peloton ordered for today to keep everything nice and easy.
Yeah, at one point, it looked like they were going to catch him way too soon, and that would reignite the excitement and attacking in the peloton. The peloton then eased up a bit, and the guys have clung out there for a bit. But look at this, a little bit of a split in the peloton.
With 30K left to go for the leaders.
Probably a result of that little bit of crosswind we were seeing as the field was flying down that hill, and it put all the guys in the right gutter of the road, and eventually it snapped.
Andrew Hood mentioned there is a headwind at the finish too, so let's see what that does to the sprinters.
That's a very tricky situation because the sprinters are used to knowing how far from the finish they can jump. If it's 200 meters, if it's 175, and each guy knows what he can do, where he can accelerate to the line. With a headwind, it totally changes that, and they have to somehow figure out how to recalibrate for the headwind.
And you have to do it on the fly when it's happening in the blink of an eye, so quickly.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily know how bad the headwind is. Is it 10 miles an hour? Is it 20? And that'll change how long your sprint is. Oh, and there looks like there's a crash there, or maybe, yeah, there is.
Quick step. Movistar and BMC involved.
That's Dario Cataldo for Quick Step. He's up on his feet.
And a Backlund Soleil rider in the background also dealing with an issue.
As we were saying, you can never let your guard down, because at any moment, something like this can not only take you out of the field, it can actually take you out of the race.
This happened right in the middle of the road.
Pretty hard to know exactly what caused that crash. But guys just get tangled up. Quite often, one rider will just get forced over on another rider, and his front wheel hit the back wheel of another rider, and then you fall down, and there's a cascading effect.
It's Greg Van Avermaet, so he's their sprinter for BMC. That's not a good situation for them with a likely field sprint coming up.
Yeah, not good at all.
Ruslan Pogordny for Vacan Soleil.
He's a man who spent a lot of time in a break a few days ago. Big engine on that squad.
And this is back to the front of the field. They're motoring right along. Chavanel. And this is the split that's been caused. Couple of different groups on the road now.
Yeah, I see 4 right there in the screen, all very close together. This will be very desperate moments for each of these groups. A little bit of a crosswind out of the left, so notice how they're all slammed over to the gutter on the right. So only the front guys in each group are getting a draft. The other ones, they're in the wind.
And any sprinter that's caught in one of the groups behind the front group is going to have to work that much harder to get back up, and that's some energy that you may not have for that kick at the finish. With the gap to the 4 leaders down inside of a minute and a half.
Look at all the Euskaltel riders on the front of the second group. I count at least 4 of them on the front. So they're pulling the first 2 groups back together. Very, very tricky moment of the bike race. Everybody at any moment could open a gap because of this crosswind and yet let this thing split up again.
And you're also getting to the point inside of the final 30K where the sprinters teams are going to start thinking about when they're going to bring that break back. Probably not yet, but you're getting to the point where it starts to become something that's going through your mind. When do we, in fact, reel them back for good?
This is Egoy Martinez on the back for Euskaltel. But we got a couple other riders in there as well. Machado, one of the main men for Radio Shack, was one of the Radio Shack guys there. And look at Garmin Cervelo really drilling it on the front right now.
And Sky is up there. Brad Wiggins sitting second wheel in the white jersey.
This is turning into a crosswind battle right now, Steve. This will be very tense in the bike race. This may shatter it.
So this has finally ignited something from the field that we haven't seen all day long. Over 70K an hour.
There is nothing that is as brutally physical as crosswind battles. There's just a little bit of a crosswind battle, but they're trying to see if they can crack it. And it's starting to snap behind already.
Guys losing contact. And single file behind with several different groups now. Coming unglued from the main field that just a short while ago was all together. It's Jose Vicente Toribio for Andalucia. Behind him, De Volder for Vacansoleil, one of the groups that's been caught out.
And Boucher is back there as well with Machado. So 2 of the 3 leaders for Radio Shack in this group that has been split out the back. This is a really big crosswind battle, but this left turn, that's going to be the saving grace for these guys chasing. It'll turn it into a headwind.
Another curve up the road as the gap to our 4 leaders is down close to a minute now. Helicopter getting blown around, so a lot of wind, and you can see just how exposed it is out there on these wide open highways.
This was the worry that a lot of guys had. Heinrich Hausler, Garmin Cervelo rider, saying if it was windy today would be brutal.
Under a minute to the 4 leaders. First time the gap has been this low. Quick Step and Garmin Cervelo, the 2 teams most prominent at the front of the field all day long. Brad Wiggins, third wheel right now.
Guys still looking back, wondering if there's enough of a crosswind to make it worth the effort to really drill it. But Wiggins still being very attentive, staying close to the front. You do not want to miss a split on a day like this.
Andrew Talansky for Garmin Cervelo is at the front. Kevin Sealdrer is there second for Quick Step. Then Wiggins, a rider from Leopard Trek, just coming in front of Wiggins. This is the front of a split-up field.
Riders out the back here, and there are more than a few of them. A group like this, they need to get very organized. They need to use the whole road so that they can all get a draft. Kim Ligthart, the Vacansoleil rider in the special jersey. There's Michael Albacini there for HTC High Road.
Now these guys,
it's over for these guys.
Not really riding that hard, so maybe conceding the fact that they're not going to catch back on.
Yeah, quite often when you get a split on a day like this, once that gap opens up, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
I see Joaquim Rodriguez up there. He's in the green jersey near the top of the screen.
That is Chavanel there in the red jersey, just about 3 or 4 wheels back, right in the middle. So he has kept himself out of trouble.
And our 4 leaders.
Well, the gap's going to come down quickly when the field is doing battle in a crosswind section like that.
And this is the second intermediate sprint. It'll be Steve Huanar who will leave him through, the AG2R rider. Now the break is held together. 4 riders who established this move earlier in the stage. All 4 still riding together here with now 23 kilometers left to go to the finish.
Look at this. The field has actually eased up a little bit. So this gives guys behind a chance to catch.
Let's see as the clock counts what the actual deficit will be to the 4 leaders. It was down under a minute with the pace so high from the front of the peloton a moment ago, but as they've maybe eased up a bit, we'll see if it's gone back out over a minute. Nope. That's going to still be under a minute here as they come through.
Just about 50 seconds from the peloton to the 4 leaders. But this actually brings a big chance for guys like Matthew Boucher and Thiago Machado to get back up into that group. Machado missing that split. Big problem for that team. Radio Shack.
So, the 4 riders in the break. Now, probably hearing the footsteps.
Yeah, if they turn around right now, they're going to see the group right behind them on this little bit of an uphill with only a 28-second advantage. That's very close.
Now, bumpy terrain today, but flat enough that it doesn't appear like it's going to allow this breakaway to stay clear or disrupt the sprinters who are very focused on getting an opportunity to battle for the stage win.
That's another group just making contact with the back of the peloton, Steve. So yet another large group of riders making it back on after the fierce but very short crosswind battle. Really, to me, the challenge for Garmin Cervelo is not to commit too many resources too early. They've had a little bit of a tendency to do that in the races and then not get Tyler all the way to the finish with enough guys left.
Oh, and here's a move by one of the Cofidis riders on a little bit of a climb. So our first significant movement from the breakaway, and that is Luis Angel Mate.
Mate, first year on the Cofidis team. He came over from the Italian Androni Giacottoli squad last year. In his first Vuelta, he's decided it's time to go all in. Maybe he can get the most aggressive for the day.
Now you get to the point where you sense you're about to be caught, so you have to take matters into your own hands and launch the solo move. And Mate, who is the highest placed rider among the 4 in the breakaway on the general classification at 14:39 down, he's now out on the attack with just over 17K left.
And if you look at him tomorrow, you will probably see his number 43, instead of having a white background, will have a red background, because typically this move out of the break will get the rider the most aggressive prize for the day, and that's the red number.
And this is the action behind, with the peloton chasing. And those are the 3 riders there on the right-hand side of the screen that Mate has left behind.
He hasn't gotten very far, has he? Angling off the front of them. But Mate has Fauchard there sitting on the other 2 riders.
And here's the field. So we're coming up on that point where right around 15K, you start to really sense that the break is about to be caught, or that the sprinters teams are really coming forward to try and bring everybody back together. Usually that 15K mark, give or take, is about when they really hit the accelerator and start to get serious about the stage.
And just noticing on the front, there was a sea of orange jerseys. Well, Igor Anton was one of the men who missed the split in the crosswind, so maybe they're not taking any risk at this point and getting him up to the front and out of trouble. And we may get another big crosswind battle here when they turn around this corner.
You can see how open it is as they head north today through the central range of Spain, finishing just southwest of Madrid. And more attacks coming from the breakaway.
Mate has been caught, so of course his teammate Fauchard, who's been sitting on, immediately goes on the attack. But this time, Honard, the Frenchman, is going to chase after him right away.
More of a response this time from the other 3.
Cabello in a little bit of a trouble on the back there.
And not too far behind. 15K banner.
9.3 miles to the finish line on this 114-mile day.
Julien Fauchard, second-year pro, first Vuelta, 25-year-old Frenchman for Cofidis, and Cofidis riders just taking turns attacking. Mate went first, Fauchard now following.
It's textbook the way you ride a breakaway when you have numbers like the Cofidis team does. One guy goes, it means his teammate gets to sit on the chasers, and then if they catch him, you got a fresh man to launch his own attack.
And the other three now just sitting up.
Yeah, they're completely giving it up.
So they'll be caught momentarily by the field.
And they're in for a rude awakening back in the peloton because of being off the front all day with 4 guys. It's very mellow out there. Yeah, you're working hard, but you don't have to fight and bump handlebars and bump shoulders. Back in the field, it is a really nasty time right now setting up for the sprint.
Sylvain Chavanel in the red jersey has come to the front with his quick-step teammates. Rabobank has also moved up. Is Oscar Freire feeling better? Can he give it a go today? Now the AG2R rider, Steve Winard, is scooped up there. So the breakaway being gobbled up here. Julien Fouchard, all that's left of the 4-man breakaway, and hanging out front by just 15 seconds.
You can see he's 1 hour, 1 minute, 4 seconds down in the general classification. This is not about his general classification hopes whatsoever. This is purely vying for a stage win would be the big prize, or the most aggressive, but certainly he's already been off the front all day, flying the flag for his team, Cofidis.
And now the rest of the breakaway picked up on the road with Rabobank at the front. Oscar Freire, after feeling ill in the first week, feeling better today, hoping to have a chance to battle it out for the sprint. He knows, like the other top sprinters, that there are not many genuine opportunities to really have a true sprint at this year's Vuelta, so you don't want to miss out.
Now, Freire is an interesting character. He's one of the best sprinters in the business when he's going well, but he's very hit and miss. He often doesn't go well, and his competitors never know when he's going to have one of those days where he can be a world beater.
12-second lead with 12K remaining for Julien Fouchard. Fouchard with the 10K banner in sight, but just a lead of a few seconds right now. And there it is. So just about to get him.
It's been a valiant effort, but it's not going to work.
10K left to go. It's all about to come back together, and we'll come back with the finish of stage number 7 in just a moment. We come back just in time for Julien Fouchard to be swallowed up by the field. So the breakaway has totally disintegrated, and this is the front of the race.
Keep an eye on that red jersey of Fouchard. He's already lost about 50 places on the left side of the field, just going back like a stone.
4 hours, 40 minutes in to a 182-kilometer stage number 7, and now the final 7 kilometers with the field all together. The headwind at the finish on the run-in to the line itself. 3 kilometers. Here we are 7 days in, and it seems like just about to get our first field sprint of this year's Vuelta a España. Hard to believe, but it's been such an active, eventful, and surprising first 6 days. But it's all coming together here with 3K left and a speed of 65 kilometers per hour.
A lot of teams think they have a shot at this with their collective sprinters. So everybody trying to wrestle control of the front of the group here.
Roundabout coming.
They got a couple of really hard left turns coming up just over 1K from the finish, and then 2 more roundabouts in that final kilometer.
I think it's going to be that acceleration coming out of the big left-hander just before they see the red kite for 1K to go that could really determine who makes it into a front group and who misses out, especially because they're turning into a headwind at that point.
And that headwind makes it much slower speed, so a guy has to wait longer to sprint. Basically, you want to time your sprint so that when you jump, you accelerate all the way to the line. So if someone's on your wheel, when they try and come around you, they have to accelerate more than you're accelerating.
Pace is very high at the front. HTC High Road coming to the head of the peloton for the first time today. 1.5 left to go. Big, sharp left-hand turn coming up.
Yeah, two really tight ones. The first one's about 90. The second one is slightly more than 90, actually slightly less than 90, but you put them together and it's just one big arcing left turn. It turns into almost a 180.
Setting up for it now. Like everybody makes it through cleanly, and then there's the red kite, meaning 1 kilometer left to go in the stage. Skill Shimano was bringing riders to the front, along with HTC and Garmin Cervelo. Quick Step now, it looks like, has brought some boys to help out, but it's still a mixture of teams riding near the front at 54 kilometers per hour.
It's almost 40 miles an hour as they're really getting ramped up here inside the final kilometer. No team has full control, Steve.
No team has it organized, has control. Riders trying to freelance off wheels. Now they're coming in towards the finish.
That's Murillo-Fischer who's gotten clear for Garmin Cervelo.
Murillo-Fischer out front. Tyler Ferris sitting about 6 or 7 wheels back. Skill Shimano has their man Marcel Kittel poised as well. The lead out is underway. Vaca Soleil has a rider launching. Now Skill Shimano, 3 riders lined up. Daniela Bonatti coming away for Leopard Trek as well. Now they hit the gas in the final few meters and coming up to the line. Petter Sagan. Oh, a crash involving Tyler Ferris. Several guys go down. Here comes Petter Sagan, but it looks like it's going to be Marcel Kittel for Skill Shimano, who ekes out the win just ahead of Sagan.
Oh, nasty, nasty crash. It definitely looked like Farah hit very hard. Kittel gets the win. Sagan going second after winning yesterday. Oh, brutal.
Michele Scarpone is also down.
All these guys will get the same time as the winner because they're inside the final 3 kilometers.
See how it happened.
Crash was about 10 wheels back. It wasn't even, it was 4 wheels back, and I didn't see who that was from the high shot from the helicopter.
Looked like Farah went down first.
Or was it the Vaca Soleil rider? Well, we'll have to digest that. But Kittel got a clean shot at the line. And Sagan right up next to him. Oscar Freire was in there as well on the left in 4th. And it looks like Daniela Bonatti obscured in 3rd.
Tyler Ferris still laying there on his back. 197 is Andrew Talansky, who's right next to him. And Heinrich Hausler, 193. There's Michele Scarpone, who went down in the crash. The red jersey was caught up in the crash. Sylvain Chavanel, he didn't go down. He just kind of had to get off his bike to avoid it. Oh, boy, oh boy.
Scarpone. Just like dominoes. That's just how dangerous it is when you're in full flight in a field sprint. If somebody crashes, always brings down a bunch of them.
So Sagan, the winner yesterday, gets second today.
Looks like Freire was 3rd.
Well, we talked about the fact that no team really had it organized, and you didn't have that true lead out, so you had riders from different teams kind of freelancing, grabbing wheels. And the crash occurring right there near the finish. Unbelievable.
Well, Marcel Kittel in his first Grand Tour, already with 12 wins this season, makes it number 13.
As they set it up, wide, flat run-in. Oh, Tyler Farah goes down first there, right in the middle. And then other guys behind them, because they were riding so fast, just couldn't avoid him.
It's just craziness. It looks like someone took out Tyler's front wheel, and then dominoes after that. Many guys hitting the deck, and then everybody behind getting stopped.
Farah there laying on his back.
With his teammate Murillo-Fischer there, just looking after him as all their teammates will do.
Now, Farah's certainly one of the guys who got the worst of it. Among the GC riders, we saw Michele Scarpone go down.
Of a Grand Tour, 13 wins of the year, he's on fire.
23-year-old. And they have confidence in him. They were riding for him earlier in the stage, and earlier this week, when there were some other possible sprint opportunities, Skill Shimano was at the front, so they have not been shy about their intentions to get this guy in position for a sprint win. And today on stage number 7, he delivered.